LexisNexis Ethos gives law enforcement agencies in the state of South Carolina the ability to write crash reports, issue citations, and fill out public contact forms all from one website. In this demonstration video, I'm going to be taking the time to show you around the Ethos platform, show you the homepage and the dashboard, take a look at some of the user settings available to you, and then we're going to spend the majority of the time in this training video looking at the three different forms: crash, citation, and public contact form that you'll be able to use with your agency. And at the end of the video, we'll show you some of the special features of Ethos that can help you save some time and improve efficiency when filling out these forms. So the first thing we need to do is visit ethos.lexisnexisrisk.com, select your agency, and log in with the user credentials that are provided to you. Now, once you've logged in, you're brought to what's called like our home page, or we call it the dashboard. And in the center of the dashboard, what you see is a queue called My Reports. Now, the majority of Ethos users will only see one queue or one tab up here that says My Reports. This is going to be an area where you can see all of the different reports that you personally, as a user, have worked on in Ethos. Now, in the center here, there's this filter to select what type of form are you talking about. Do you want to look at the public contact forms that you've created, the citations that you've created, or the crash reports that you've created? Those are the three forms that we're going to go over in this video. So always make sure that you're on My Reports, but then you also have the correct form selected here in this drop-down filter. What you see down below is a list of all the reports that you personally as a user have worked on. Every single row is its own report, and you can see some of the information in this grid about the report that was created. Now, to the left of every single line, you see a few things that can help us understand more about this report. So one, right here, if you hover over this icon, you can see the status of that report. So some reports you worked on might be in a draft status. That means they either need to be completed or deleted. That's what I always like to say, completed or deleted. They need to be finished in one way or another. So draft means they're unfinished. You might see a report that's in a status that's like in progress. Now this actually means it's a report that you completed as an officer and you submitted it to your supervisors for review, and it's in progress of being reviewed. Now, they might approve it or they might reject it back to you with a rejection reason. But one way or another, it's up to your supervisors to determine the next step. You might see a status that says approved, and that means your supervisors approved your report, and it would still be here, just in an approved status. You might see a report that is rejected. It means you sent it up for review to your supervisors, and they sent it back to you and rejected it with a reason why you need to make corrections on that report. So this is just an icon to show you the status of a report that you created. To the left of that, you see this vertical ellipsis. Some people just call it the ... button. If you click this, this is the action items you can take on this particular report. So you could go and edit it and finish it and submit it once it's complete. You can delete this draft. So I could just delete this outright. Like maybe you start one in error and you didn't mean to complete it. Well, you can delete it. You could send this to another officer at your department for them to work on. You could print different iterations or versions of this report, or you could email attached copies of this report to other people. So these are action items, and those action items can change based upon your permissions, but also the status of a report. So let's say a report is finalized, it's been approved, then you won't see the delete option. So these items can change based upon your user permissions and also on the status of the report. In the top right hand corner, let's go take a look at some of the user settings of the application. So in the top right hand corner, we have a day night mode toggle that's always accessible for you to use. If you click on this picture of a generic officer icon here, you'll see your first name, your last name, your badge number, and you'll also see what's called user settings. Now when you open the user settings, there's a few sections here that I think are worth your time, and you should probably fill them out before you even start creating any reports. So the first section, general information, will just show you your contact information. User defaults is helpful usually for when creating citations. It's here that we're going to give you the ability to select some default values for some of the fields on like a citation form. Your signature. Every single time you create a form, the forms are populated with your signature. Now, rather than drawing your signature every single time you create a citation, you can load your default signature in here, and then it will automatically populate onto whatever form you're creating. So, if drawing on your trackpad is hard, you can actually upload a scanned copy of your signature from your computer, and that way it's a little more clean. Make sure you save that when you're done with that. Next up, you can go to violation favorites. This is specifically for creating a citation. It's here that you can search for a most commonly used violation and mark it as a favorite, so that when you're creating a citation later on, you will have easy access to your favorite violations, so that you don't have to sort through the thousands that are loaded in here, and you can more easily find the ones that you use most frequently. To do that, I think the easiest way to do it is to click this vertical ellipsis on the description column and add a keyword, and then select filter. And then what you can do is find the one that you want to mark as a favorite and just click this checkbox on the left. And then once you clear that filter, it will show along with your other favorite violations over here at the top. Make sure you save that in the bottom right hand corner. Next up, your default location is just whenever you use the mapping tool, where do you want it to open up to? The default area and the default zoom level of where you normally patrol or spend most of your time on patrol. So you can save your default location here. Last of all, there are some layout settings here to change the look and feel of the Ethos application. So let's return to our dashboard. And now we're going to spend a good majority of the rest of this training video going over 3 different forms: the crash form, the citation form, and the public contact form. And in order to start any one of those 3 forms, you can just open this menu over here on the left, New Reports, and click on one of these, or in the top center of your screen, you can drop down this Create New Report section and select one of those as well. We're going to start with the crash report form. On the left-hand side, you see the different sections of this crash report. Now, this list is really small to start, but it's dynamic. So as we fill out answers on our form, this list of sections over here on the left is going to grow. Like as we add units, or as we add passengers, or if we add property damage, this list is going to grow over here. But you can jump between these sections by just clicking on them. You can always jump between them. You won't lose the data that you filled out on those sections as you move between them. On each section, you'll see a little colorful icon here. You'll see either a red exclamation point, which means there are required fields on that section that have to be filled out. If you see an orange exclamation point, it just means there are fields that deserve your consideration on whether or not they should be filled out. Kind of like a warning. You don't have to fill them out, but you should consider filling them out. And if it's a green check mark, it means that section's actually complete and there are no more required fields on that section. And as you fill out these sections, this little icon over here on the left will change as you complete a particular section over here, filling out all of the necessary fields. So as I put in a crash time here, you'll now see that we have no errors, no red errors anywhere, and we now have a green check mark on this section. Now, there's something really important to identify about this crash report. When you start a brand new crash report, it's going to start on the FR10 version of a crash report. In some states, we call that a driver's exchange form. It's a crash report that's really been pared down to the absolute minimal information. Just enough information to capture information about the parties that were involved, a little bit about the accident, and then you'll be able to print this off and send them on their way. So when we start a crash report, it starts on this FR10 form. And as we fill out these few sections, we can then print it off, and then we'll come back to this, but convert it to a TR310. But it starts off always with the FR10. So we filled out this section. Now we can jump to the location section. It's here that the very first thing you do, and it's really important, is to identify whether or not you are at an intersection or just on a road near an intersection, or it's just private property altogether. And you'll notice as I click on these, it changes the values down below that need to be filled out. So make your decision first here, what you're looking for or where the accident occurred. And then you're going to click on this map location button. And what it's going to do is open up a map of your default location that you set in your user profile. And you can zoom up and move around. And then you can select, like in this instance, an intersection where the accident occurred, Hampton and Marion. And once you have the correct location, you can export it, and Ethos is going to do its best to bring in the proper values for a good number of these fields right here. It is important that you have the correct thing selected first so that these fields can be properly filled out. Fill out any additional fields that you need to, but these are all warnings. They're not required fields, but we can go 2A. We can go that is not divided. Was it related to a junction? Sure, it's intersection related. Type of intersection, 4-leg intersection. And just like that, now our location section has a green check mark. So now let's go to the unit summary. It's here that we can add units to our report. Now when you hit add unit, it asks some initial questions that are pretty important. So was this a hit and run unit? The answer is no. Now, if you selected yes, there would be a lot of different questions, or it would even reduce a lot of the questions that you had to ask. It's going to ask, is it a motorized vehicle? And for this one, we'll say that it is yes. And you'll notice over here on the left, it expanded and gave us more sections that we need to fill out. If I change that answer to no, it changes over here on the left. So Ethos is dynamically adjusting to show you only the fields that you need to fill out. A non-motorist will say no. And now we'll move on to the vehicle information. A couple things about this form. This is starting to get these sections are starting to get a little bit bigger. So let me go over a few things. Once again, required fields say that they're required, and sometimes will give you an indication of what needs to be filled out there. So we've got an automobile. The status was it was in transport. No CDL required. Now we get down to some details about the vehicle. Now you can fill all these things out manually. You can put in a state. There's actually a good tabbing sequence. So if you want to use the tab button on your keyboard to move from one field to the next, you can. If you paste a VIN right in here and then kind of click off the field, it will automatically load usually the year, make, and model for you. You can fill all this out manually, or one neat tool that we have, and this applies to all of the forms, whether it's crash or citation or public contact, is that you can use the Coplogic Ethos mobile app and log in with your same credentials and use the camera on your mobile device to capture barcoded information like a driver's license or the barcoded VIN on a vehicle, or even the barcode on many state registration forms. So you can use the mobile app and your camera to capture barcoded information, and then what it does is it automatically ports it over here to the Ethos web app, where we can change our filter and see these records that we had scanned with our phone. Now I'm on a vehicle section, a little car icon right here on the left. So I can only bring over vehicular information to my form. Now when I click add to form, it replaces anything I already had on there. So it actually did wipe out my license plate number and we got to put my state in here. And then we'll put in our license expiration. But you can bring in records that you've scanned from your mobile device and bring them onto your form. Now you got to fill out the rest of the information here. And we can move on to our next section. Now this is a green check mark, but the next section, driver, has information that needs to be filled out. Same thing with vehicle. I can fill this all out manually, or if I scanned one of the involved parties' driver's licenses, it will be in here and I can add this person to my form. Now I got to add in and fix the remaining fields here. And just like that, my fake person, unit, driver their information has been added to this form. If you go to the owner section, you can need to first identify if this was a business or an individual. If I select individual, it gives me this option right here. If the owner of the vehicle was the same as the driver, you can tick this little box right here and it will fill out all of the information that you had just filled out under the driver section. If it's different, you would just need to type it in manually. We're down to finalize. You know what? I'm going to actually go back and I'm going to add another unit. We'll say hit and run, no, but motorized vehicle, no this time. Non-motorist, yes. So we'll say this was a pedestrian. Now I have my second unit added in. Now we move to the finalize screen, and it's here that we see any fields that remain on this form that are required and need a proper value in them, or fields that just have a warning and you might consider, adding a proper value to them. But we have no more required fields at this point. What I'm going to do is go up here to the top right-hand corner where it says print, and I'm going to print this FR10 form. And at this point, you could print this off and give it to the involved parties. Now we want to move back to the general information section and convert this to a full TR310 accident report. And what's going to happen is all of these sections are going to expand, and we're going to basically have a lot more fields to fill out. So we're going to hit crash report, and a lot more fields need our attention at this point. So here we have the crash time, we have a notified time, we could say this was 10 minutes later, arrival time, another 10 minutes later, roadway cleared maybe 40 minutes later. Let's answer these questions. Once again, there is a good tabbing sequence for you to do this all on your keyboard without having to without having to move your hands off the keyboard. So you answer all these questions. All the required fields now have an answer. We have a green check mark and we can move on to the next section. I do often recommend that you fill out these sections from top to bottom. There is a logical progression to filling these out. So always start at the top and work your way down from there. So we have some questions about lanes. This is lane, we'll say 1 of 1. And all the fields have now been filled out. Crash details. What was the light condition? It was daylight. The weather condition was clear. The road surface, we'll say, was dry. Manner of collision, we'll say not a collision with a motor vehicle. This is with a pedestrian. First harmful event, we'll go collision with an object that was not fixed, a pedestrian. And this was in the roadway. Barrier type, none. School bus related, no. Now we've filled out all of our crash details and we can move on to Unit 1, which looks like it's filled out. So we'll go down and enter in some more information about the vehicle. Unit 1 vehicle, was it towed? No. Crash details, a lot of sections to fill out here. Speed limit, 35. Estimated speed, we'll say 35. Vehicle was traveling eastbound. Was it emergency vehicle? Special function, no. Action prior, movement essentially straight ahead. No contributing circumstances. Once those sections are filled out, we can go to the driver of Unit 1 and fill out sections on injury and their actions at the time of the crash and a few other items. Going down to Unit 2, it looks like we have some information to fill out about our pedestrians. So we'll say suspected minor injury. They were not transported to a medical facility. No incident responder. Distraction. We'll say they kind of ran into the street. They entered into the crossing of the road. And they were inattentive. And you can fill out some additional sections about safety equipment. Most of these fields here all look like they're warnings. Suspected use of alcohol and drug. Down to this section on witnesses. If you need to add a witness, you come to witnesses here and you hit add witness. And then really what it does is it just opens up a person record for you to fill out information about this witness. Now, if you open one of those up by accident and you didn't mean to, you could hit the trash can right here. Or you can click the red X over here on the left in the section, and it will give you a little prompt and allow you to delete a section that you added by accident. Now, you can actually do that with any section that you add. So if you add a unit on accident, you can then delete that unit by clicking the red X right there. Property damages, we can go here and hit add property damage and identify if this was a business or an individual's property, the damage amounts, the property owner's information, and this is something new in the state of South Carolina, but if it was SCDOT property that was damaged, you can just check this box and it will fill out for you the contact information for SCDOT. So we'll say utility pole. Okay. Now going down to our next section, it's here in diagrams and attachments that you can upload related files or pictures related to this accident. So I have a sample picture of an accident, even though it isn't a unit with a pedestrian. But you can, just demonstrating here that you can upload a picture that's related to the report you're creating. You can do this with citations as well, so you'll see that feature here in just a little bit. At the top of this section, we see that you have the ability to create a diagram for this crash report. So if we click on this, it's going to open up this new canvas where what you're looking to do is add in the proper roadways and the objects onto this canvas here to illustrate what happened in this accident. So I'm going to add a north-south road, and I can adjust the lengths of this road, and I'll add an east-west road and bring that onto my canvas and move that around. And then what I can do is I can start to add the various objects to help illustrate what happened in this accident. So I can add our unit 1 right here, and then I can go down here and add different units that were like this person unit that was crossing the street. And then you can just go look through these buckets and see the different objects available to you. So you have vehicular units and pickups, commercial vehicles, emergency, so there's all sorts of these buckets to help you add objects onto your canvas so that accurately portrays what happened. So we can throw in a traffic signal here. Now if you add something to your canvas and you didn't mean to, you can click on that object and then hit this little trash can button at the top of your screen to remove it. Signs is obviously an important one, so you can add that there was a stop sign here. Now, like I said, with all objects on your screen, you can click on them and hit the gearbox icon, and it will bring up additional settings for you to change about that vehicle or that object. You can rotate objects that you add to your screen. You can make them larger or smaller. If you have an object on your screen, you can click on it. I like this tool, and then go click this little number sign here at the top of your screen, and it will put a text box on your template here with the number 1. Now, if you click another object and hit that same number button, it will create the next sequential number so that it gives you the easy ability for you to label the units properly on your diagram. Text box is pretty important. You can draw a text box on your screen and you can type in the street name and you can line that up, or if you need to, you could rotate it and align it with a street like that. So you hit save and then you exit out of this, and it's going to bring your diagram here into your form. Getting close to the end here, we have a narrative where you get to type out details about the accident that has occurred. You can also use the microphone on your computer to audibly dictate out what you would like in this box, and then you have the ability to go back and make any corrections on anything it got wrong. When we reach the finalized screen, what we have here is once again a list of any fields that either have a warning, something that you might want to fill out, but if there are required fields that you missed, you have this hyperlinked right here so that you can click on it and it will go right back to that section so that you can fill out that field. So I'll fill out a few of these warning ones about the pedestrian unit. Now I go to the finalize section, and there's even less warnings that need to be considered. Your officer information should populate here properly. So you can come up here in the top right hand corner and go to print, and we can go to preview, and you can see the full accident report that's about to be submitted to your supervisors for approval. Now notice it says draft as a watermark right here. This is to prevent you from accidentally printing this copy right now and handing it out to involved parties when it hasn't even been, sent for approval. So it says draft on each page, but you can scroll up and down and make sure that everything's been filled out properly. But once that's done, scroll to the bottom and you hit submit. Now this submit button won't even be here unless every single required field is filled out. So if you have any red exclamation points over here, you won't be able to find this submit button. But what we can do is hit submit, and that will bring us back to our dashboard. Give it a couple of seconds to refresh, and then what we'll see is the report that we just created here under My Reports, and the status is in progress, which means it's in progress of being reviewed by your supervisors. And if they approve it, the status will change to approved and you're done with it. If they reject it, this whole line will be a dark, deep red color, and it will say rejected here. And you would have the rejection reason listed right here, why they sent it back. And you would be able to go edit it and submit it again for a second round of approval. Okay, now we're going to move on to the second form. Now, once you've learned crash, citation is going to be a lot easier. So let's open up a new citation. I click on citation. It looks exactly the same in a sense as the crash report. Over here on the left, the different sections that you're going to be working on. You can move between those sections at no consequence of losing your data. We do recommend that you fill them out from top to bottom. So starting off with general information, if there's an incident number, you could populate that. Tracking number, agency crash number, city, county, and then down below on this one, you have the location information right here at the beginning. So I'm going to click on our map. I'm going to zoom in here to the city of Columbia and select a road. Now, you can adjust this number right here to make it more accurate. You can also adjust this value if it seems wrong, or when you export it to your form, you can adjust some of the information right here. It's going to automatically grab the latitude and longitude, but now we have our general information and location information filled out. Person, vehicle, person section. Do you remember from crash, you can fill this out manually, or you can come up here in the top right hand corner and grab a value from a barcode that was scanned using the Coplogic Ethos mobile. Once again, you can download that from the Apple Store or the Google Play Store, log in with your credentials, scan a barcode, and it will carry it over here to the web version of Ethos, where you can import those values automatically onto your form. Vehicle information, same thing. You can only bring over a vehicle record onto a vehicle section. So I'm going to add that to our form. We'll say it's an automobile, license number, state, and then we move on to owner. We'll say this is same as the driver to speed that along. On this section, we're going to add a violation to our citation. So if I click on this, what you're going to want to do is use the section or description field to type in maybe an act or code or a description, and then you will see a filtered down list of the violations available to you, and you can hit the next button to go through those and select the one that you want to add to your citation. So I'm going to add more than 10 but less than 15 in terms of speeding. Now I'm going to add another one. Let's go with seatbelt violation. And it's also here that you can change this filter up here and select your officer favorites, and that will display the ones that you had saved in your user profile. We talked about that at the very beginning of this video. So that's officer favorites right there. I'm going to take these two violations and I'm going to bring them into my citation here. So once your violations have been added here, you need to fill out the remaining fields for each violation. We've got the speeding one here up at the top. We got the seatbelt one down here at the bottom. So for recorded speed, we will say they're going 52 in a 40. So that's 12 miles over. That's in between 10 and 15. Now, if you try to put in like 45 and a 40, it's going to give you an error telling you, your math isn't right here. So it doesn't match this violation. So we'll put 52 and a 40, a seatbelt violation. Be sure that you fill out all of the proper fields for each of the violations that you've added. On the court section, you just have to fill out all of the correct fields regarding the court information for this citation. Getting close to the end of our citation, you can enter in your officer notes. You can add attachments related to the issuing of this citation. So maybe a picture of someone parked illegally, or an open container in the vehicle, or an expired registration tag, something like that. And last of all, your finalized section imports the proper values for the reporting and issuing officer if they're the same, or arresting officer. You can preview the citation. You can zoom in to make sure that it filled out all of the fields properly. And once you're satisfied that, you can issue the citation. It will actually bring you to a pop-up screen here where you can then print out the finalized version on your printer. And then it will bring you back to your dashboard. Make sure that you're on the correct section. So we'll go to citation right here. And your citation will be here on this screen. Last of all is the public contact or warning form. And at this point, you've seen the hardest of forms that need to be filled out. And so this form should be pretty easy. General information, person information, which can be imported from scans you did in the Coplogic Ethos mobile app, vehicular information, and then information about this stop, contact, and searches. And then you can finalize it once all the fields have been filled out properly. One final thing I'd like to show you in this training video is related primarily to citation, and that's the ability to create a template that's reusable over and over. So say you're doing some sort of campaign to make sure that drivers are buckling up when they're driving, or maybe you're patrolling a school zone every Monday morning, watching for people driving over the speed limit in a school zone. What you can do is fill out any of the sections other than person and vehicle. So you can fill out general information about the location. You can fill out the violation that's being issued. You can fill out court information. And then what you can do is you can go to the top here and hit this little plus sign and choose a name for your preset or your template. So you can say this is on Main Road. We'll say 10 mph school zone. And you can hit save. and it's going to save any fields on the general information sections, violation, and court fields that you had already filled out. But then, so say you're doing that same stop Monday morning in a school zone, what you can do is you can hit citation, and before you've filled out anything, you can go to the download icon right here, and you can download one of your templates. Now here's the one that we just saved. Download this one, and it asks you to confirm that, and it will bring in any of the values that you had saved on general information, violation, and court to save you some time in selecting those values over and over again. Instead, all you need to do at that point is scan their driver's license with your Coplogic Ethos mobile app, import the record in, scan their vehicle barcode, import the record in, and you're pretty much on your way towards issuing this citation pretty quickly. So that's just how you can use templates or presets in order to save yourself time with citations that are similar in nature that you're issuing repeatedly.